Better late than never. You can say it about this show. You can say it about Western United's training ground. There's lots to be excited about. We're here. We're excited. Teo Pellizzeri, tickets.
Sorted.
Do you think, Teo, me and you should get into the voiceover game, but kind of be a voiceover duo? So, kind of break up because, duos are big in music and in commentary and in many things. But what about voiceovers?
I feel as though you can play both the straight man and the color guy, Stoll. Where do you need me in this? You've got the range. You've got the variety.
Now, you know what it is? You have the much better voice. The voice is mellifluous. When I hear it on the broadcast, I'm like, it's just a really great voice. Jacobs is only 7 minutes late in Queensland time. Look, the clocks have changed. Sometimes you get thrown out of whack. All right, we're here. We're all here. We're all having a good time. If a party kicks off a little bit late, you don't mind. It's all about fun and timekeeping, not fun. Joe Simon, have you had fun this week?
I've had so much fun. The clock's going back. I mean, the extra hour, it really catches up with you, doesn't it?
It's been dark for hours. Like MAFFS starting at 8 p.m. Like it was like dark outside. I'm like, oh, have I missed MAFFS? And it was 6:30. It's like 90 minutes until MAFFS. Well, 97. But it's a different world out there.
It's a different world, but it's been fun. That's for sure.
Well, look, you speak for yourselves. It's not dark here. It's midday. The sun is behind some clouds here. There's almost a chance of rain in this drought-stricken city. Josh Parish, have you had fun this week?
I've had a lot of fun this week. I think it would be worrying if I hadn't, given I made my debut on the weekend. So
what?
Yeah, it was great.
Speaking of iconic duos.
Yeah, I know. I mean, so this is the thing. We're actually, what we wanted to do was, I believe, Teo, I don't know how subtle it was, but you snuck in a plug for the Make Australian Football Fun Society podcast.
I think this was a figment of people's imagination. I mean, wow. I know that conspiracy theorists are having, this is their day. Apparently, there's going to be an earthquake in the United States due to the tectonic plates, one sliding under the other, and it's going to cause, the entire sort of fault line on the west coast of America to go underseas. This is going to age really poorly if it happens, by the way. But I think people are hearing what they want to hear, and this was simply just another line in commentary from me.
No, so it might be the tectonic. It might be the tectonic plates. It might be daylight savings. So let's have a quick listen to what Teo said.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff we want to hear.
That's what we want to hear.
I think people are drawing conclusions for something that clearly is a figment of their imagination.
But even if they are drawing conclusions, you didn't mean it, it just goes to show that MAFFS is always front of mind, especially 100%. Around these parts.
I mean, people are getting it out. I mean, obviously 15 million downloads every week. I think 16 million now, always growing, always increasing, we're going viral on TikTok and all this kind of stuff. But people just message us all the time thinking about MAFFS, how to make MAFFS more fun. Well, not how to make MAFFS more fun. MAFFS is as fun as it can be. How to make Australian football more fun. People talking about the Adelaide Perth is the MAFFS derby. Someone was saying about, how we make Newcastle more fun. I love people's fun ideas and I love your comments. So please get them in. Simon says, didn't hear anything. The clip was muted. Well, look, mate, catch up on the podcast later. I mean, I heard it. I thought it was all good. Let us know. Did you hear that clip? Did the production values of this show live up to the hype, Joe?
Well, I thought if some people didn't hear it, maybe we've got the man right here.
Oh, to reenact the reenactment.
Make the monkey dance.
You know what? Do you guys remember on a Current Affair and Today Tonight back in the day, they used to do reenactments of crimes a lot, because they didn't have footage of the actual crime. Yes. So they'd kind of get and they wouldn't show the faces. It'd be like some robbery or something, and they'd show people. We should do that for classic A-League moments. Imagine we reenacted the Kevin Muscat, John Cosmina chokehold.
Hang on, didn't we have the entire pandemic where that was going on?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Look, everyone, you know what I say? I usually like the comments.
All right.
but
So
actually,
we want to do a faithful reenactment of the footage we just showed. I can do that.
How about I play the audio only? We see if that works.
If you were looking to make Australian football fun, you'd ask for something like this. A team coming back from 2-0 down, scoring 4 goals in the first 20 minutes of the second half. If you were
Fake
looking
news.
to make Australian
Fake news.
football fun,
That is
you'd
dark
ask for
audio.
something like
That is not
It's
me.
looping. Hang on.
You can't stop him. We can't stop him now.
this is
I
the
believe-
Frankenstein of our own making.
What I did say was, Grace, it's hard to believe that just 5 days ago I suggested that Michael Ruhs would be a Socceroo if he had a more Anglo name. We dubbed him the Sydney Shit Stirrer. And I believe social media, the entire first half, was saying he should be released on a free transfer. What a turnaround. This show is no longer the Make Australian Football Fun Society. It's the Michael Ruhs Apology Hour. I mean, what a brilliant, if anything says this guy is a Socceroo, it's that everyone wrote him off and he stuck it where the sun don't shine.
But do you think he has the emotional maturity to play international football, Josh? I mean, that is the real question, because we don't judge people on talent anymore. It's all about emotional maturity.
Well, he told me after the game that he wasn't happy that he didn't score a hat-trick because he wanted to score the first hat-trick at the venue. And I think that's a good mentality to have. He also said it was nice to stick one on MacArthur, which is his former club. So, petty and ambitious. That's what I want in our national team.
But he's not even up to 10 A-League goals, and he already has 2 former clubs in this league. Just don't forget, he was at the Central Coast Mariners as well.
You know what? This is why we call him the Sydney Shit Stirrer. I mean, and a few. It was funny. A few people. I saw one person responded when we said that on Twitter, saying, "Is Teo the Sydney Shit Stirrer to which we refer?" And I was like, "That is outrageous." Teo would be so offended to be called someone from Sydney. That would be the shit stirring part, no problem. Look, John says hearing that plug for MAFFS at Ton 8 was paid via Nick Stoll's appearance.
It was not a plug.
Let's hear it one more time, Josh.
let's loop it. If there are any DJs out there that want to loop it into a remix kind of remix,
like a get on the beers style remix.
Yeah. Can I just say the one very MAFFSy sort of is the podcast taking over moment was I referred to the venue as not Ironbark Stadium yet. Josh, I believed you referred to it as not Ironbark Stadium. And then one of the A-League aggregator accounts, I think it's A-League attendances, referred to it as not Ironbark Stadium. I love it. Rushworth Footy Club, the mighty Ironbark. There we go, fellas.
Here we go. The Don Clark scoreboard.
That's Ironbark right there. And there's a reason it's not called Ironbark Stadium yet. It's because of the mighty Rushworth Tigers in the Kyabram District Football League.
Really great shout from John. DJ Brox. Yeah, we need to get DJ Brox to make a remix about it. Can we just go back to that photo, actually, Teo? I do love a suburban ground photo.
Let's have a look.
Let's just have a bit of an analysis of this. The main thing you've got to look at is have a look at some of these sponsors.
Yeah.
GV Mini Skips.
They do a lot. They do domestic, industrial, commercial. I mean, prompt service.
If you want a big skip, go somewhere else.
A mini skip is how my great grandfather would have referred to Josh Nisbet. But anyway.
Oh, that's good. I was going to say Josh Parish.
Nah. Anyway, so yeah, just an amazing thing. Look, if you're ever attending, like a local football game, please send us in your favorite random bit of advertising that you find. The more obscure, the better. And I say this as someone who, I remember once Getafe, first division team here in Spain, was advertising the local brothel on the side. So, good to see. It's very sex worker positive, Getafe. But less.
It's like when the NRL go to Las Vegas and they're doing the live OB with the strip in the background and there's ads for call girls going past on massive truck billboards.
Hey, know your audience. Know your audience. Look, please let us know what made Australian football fun for you this week. I'm going to get the answers from all of us here, but already some people have just talked about what wasn't fun, and we don't need what wasn't fun. We need.
You've come to the wrong place.
Yeah, that's the Make Australian Football less fun show. It's way less popular. It only gets 14 million downloads a week. But look, Peter's talking about the lack of fun at Perth Glory at the moment. Glory was the funnest.
So this is a Wendy's.
Yeah, and then they struggled a bit. We'll get onto them a bit later. Jacob talking about Redland City Council closing fields all day before the weekend in anticipation of rain that never came.
Jacob, did you not watch this show like 3 weeks ago where we said that Queensland bid for the Olympics because it is now an autocratic regime that needs to sports wash its reputation? What do you expect, buddy? You live there.
Yeah, you know what? Just turn up and play anyway. It needs the council's approval. What are they going to do? Call the cops? Like, what are you going to do? Get arrested? This is not a Sydney derby. You know, you can get away with it. Anyway, Simon says, I like this. What could potentially be fun is if the Golden Boot winner came from the Wooden Spooners. I don't believe that's ever happened in the A-League. Can anyone think? I don't.
I think it happened a week ago. Michelle Heyman. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, yeah,
they finished second last. My apologies. They finished second last.
They should have tanked and got the draft picks.
A form of tanking.
Yeah, well, exactly. Save Canberra United. I hope that's going well. Look, Joe, I'm going to start with you. What made Australian football fun for you this week?
There was plenty on offer, and I hope I don't tread on anyone's toes here. But a quick shout out to a few of the goals, because not only were there some amazing goals, they're all a little bit different. We had back heels, we had outside the box screamers. So that was fun. But for me, what made Australian football fun for me this week was the violinist performing Seven Nation Army in the middle of Amy Park before the Melbourne Derby. Now, I actually do have just a quick bit of, we've got the photo over there. I do have a quick bit of the audio. I'll play it now.
You might not be able to hear it.
Here it is. No, that's not it. It is. All right, we don't have time for the full 88 minutes, but very, very good. And
nor do we have the rights to it.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
five seconds
were like
is
a
enough.
second away from being pulled from that. Look, I just say on that, I mean, do we care it wasn't pre-recorded? Sorry, do we care it was pre-recorded? I mean, it wasn't.
What?
There was no.
That was live.
No, I mean, how can it, like, what was it plugged into? There was no.
So you can get a wireless. You can get a wireless pickup on your violin.
This is MAFFS, my friend.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Look,
I choose to believe. I choose to not be cynical.
Let me know. Do you believe? I think that was pre-recorded, and then she was just.
Now, I've got to ask: was it unprecedentedly hot in Melbourne on Saturday? Because the level of thirst once this clip hit social media today, brothers were starving. Quite frankly, the violinist is a professional musician called Evangeline Victoria. I believe that she only had about 1,000 followers at the start of today. It's now 14.1K.
Wow.
So there you go. No, I'm kidding. It was about 13,000. But still, I mean, for a professional musician in a post-COVID environment, Josh, you and I are both classically trained musicians to varying degrees. I got to say, I don't give you the shake of the head. I think that it's not.
Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, Josh was in the brass and I was in the woodwind.
That's true.
On the way up, but no, it was just
playing what?
Pleasing to see that someone in the arts industry in this company can earn $1 out of football, and long may it continue.
Long may it continue. What about you guys? The next time you get on a broadcast together, get the instruments out, dust off the instruments, and play a tune. I mean, I think
we've been waiting since a behind closed doors Australia Cup tie in 2021, was it, Josh? So it took 3 years for us to reunite on air. We might be waiting a while again into the future.
I got up to grade 4. I was, I wasn't any trumpeter to write home about, but
Grade 4, as in like in school, like you did
in AMAB. In AMAB.
I don't know what that means. Is
this
like
the
AFL thing? Musicians something board.
Oh wow, that's all right. You play the center circle at Tarnee.
You're on the board.
Look, Simon coming in with
I thought we weren't discussing the center circle at Tarnee.
Simon says invite the tuba guy. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say on Evangeline just quickly, I love the pre-game entertainment.
Oh, on a first-name basis, are you now, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, she's spiked up to 14.1 thousand followers, and she's got 4 more tonight, I'm sure.
She does weddings. Are you considering Joe bringing her in?
Oh, listen. What for my wedding? For my
my
bride? Oh, you mean
was going to say, is Joe getting married?
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, what do you think? What do you think the MAFFS pod is for? But what I loved about the performance is she. I think what the fans were expecting was just the loop of the chorus. And she moved into the melody. I mean, we've got two classical musicians on the panel tonight. She moved into the melody of the verse. That's not. Listen, that's not what the fans want. The fans don't care about the verse. They want the chorus for 90 minutes only. So maybe for next time. Stoll, maybe not pre-recorded either.
Did I mention I have a citation on the Wikipedia page of Seven Nation Army? This
is the greatest hive mind moment of all time, Teo. I was about to bring this up.
a live blog that I wrote back in my newspaper days. Is a citation on the Wikipedia page of Seven Nation Army. That is correct.
I have it up right here in front of me, Teo. In cultural impact, a section of Seven Nation Army, a lengthy Wikipedia page. The song is also played at the home games of A-League team Melbourne Victory following a team goal. Coincidentally, the team plays at Amy Park, located only 2,300 feet, in brackets, 700 meters, from the Corner Hotel where the riff was originally composed.
What?
Jack
cool.
White wrote the riff for Seven Nation Army while they were on tour in Australia, and he wrote it at the Corner Hotel.
How is that not the most famous thing about Melbourne? You guys are always talking about how good Melbourne is.
The only source for this information is citation footnote 90, Pellizzeri, Teo, February 22nd, 2014, live A-League, Melbourne Victory versus Adelaide United.
Hang
in
on. The Age. So does this mean, Teo, can you just make this up? And is this a true story?
Look, we have extended a lot of myth making, and then people keep saying football's got to tell its own story. I don't know. I mean, I assume that's true.
It can tell its own story. It doesn't matter if it's true, but it's entertaining.
I genuinely thought that was true, and then
it genuinely is.
It genuinely is true.
What do you mean? Stop confusing me. Is it true or not? I demand a truthful answer.
We've entered a post-truth world.
Well, you know what? I do. The only time I've ever made edits on Wikipedia was David Bashir's. One day I was working at SBS. David Bashir was sitting next to me, and I decided to edit his Wikipedia page as much as I could. For about a year, there was unbelievable amounts of nonsense in there. But anyway, eventually someone scrapped it. But that was no fun. That was no fun. But look, the violin, that was fun. We should have more classical music guests across the A-League. Teo,
who's next? Sorry, Stoll.
Are we
going to have, like, after a goal at Perth Glory, are we going to have, like, an oboist playing Song 2 by Blur?
Do you reckon Derulo will pull out his kid?
The Thief?
Yeah, good. I mean, let us know in the comments. Can you link a team, a song, and an instrument? it's a bit of a weird game, but we'll play it. We'll play it if you can do it. A team, a song, instrument. Perth Glory.
Auckland have got a blank canvas. Are they going to have Dave Dobbin and Herbs doing "Slice of Heaven" after every goal? Sorry, apologies to all our listeners from New Zealand. I think now that daylight savings is over, are we an hour closer or further away from them, or does it stay the same? Is it 10:30 or 9:30 over there at the moment?
Let us know in the comments.
Someone who's in New Zealand right now, let us know.
Did you guys actually know that the chorus to Sweet Caroline was actually written in a farmhouse in West Tarneet?
Oh, wow. That's so, you know what? Can I just say, amazing live broadcasting. Let us know what the time is in New Zealand. just amazing call to actions. Look, to the 15 million listeners, I mean, this is what you tune in for. I've lost my train of thought completely. A club, an instrument, and a song. Perth Glory, a grand piano, and Blink 182's "What My Age Again." Here we go. Joseph, Tuba Man, Melbourne City, so happy together. See, this is what we can do. Simon answers, the difference in hours are the same, or is it time is just a construct? Teo, what made Australian football fun for you this weekend?
Well, I mean, we've touched on both the things that predominantly made Australian football fun. Getting to work with Josh was a lot of fun. I went into this broadcast looking for any and every reason to throw it down to the sideline and just brute force our man into the broadcast at every possible opportunity. And then we just got the best bloody game for it regardless. I mean, we had first half injuries, contentious VAR. We had a moment where we weren't sure where the VAR screen was, and when Uli Davila went and put his hand around the neck of his opponent, was it Risdon? I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, after he got Tony Abbott on Vladimir Putin style shirt fronted by Rafael Borges Rodriguez, but we genuinely didn't know where the monitor was, and then Sean Evans didn't bother to come over and check it anyway. So yeah, it was chaotic and it was fun. And it was an absolute pleasure to have Josh on the broadcast, which was very enjoyable. But the thing I found most fun is that when Josh announced he was doing it on Saturday morning, 2 independent replies of each other said, that's all well and good. Have your own broadcasting proclivities. But I'm not going to spend any more time on it because every 3 months a person is ripped to death by a crocodile in northern Queensland. But there were even people asking if Josh was going to wear the hat on TV, which would have been a garish introduction, to say the least.
Yeah, but you know what? You would have been stuck in the minds of everyone. Maybe that should be your thing, Josh, and you can kind of you can do merchandise with that hat. I mean, Caddis surely doesn't own the rights to it.
Surely you can't copyright Nakubra. But
yeah.
I was actually, speaking of the VAR screen, I was actually chatting to the guy who set it up after the game. He's come out all this way and it never got used. And they had to get like a new extension cord as well because it wasn't long enough to get to the spot where the screen was and everything. So he went through quite a bit of hassle in the build-up to actually get it set up. And then I was like, I thought you were going to get some use out of that today with the Davila incident. And he was like, yeah, mate, I came all this way for nothing.
Josh, take us inside, not the Iron Bark, because they've got 2 more home games, plus a women's final this weekend, which is part of a double header. So what was the actual experience like? Because the crowd was 3,500, so you're still, largely breaking uncharted territory for a lot of viewers. What was the experience like getting out there and, seeing that new ground in action?
Well, look, I got to be honest, on the way in, I was concerned because I went down Sewell's Road, which is off Leaks Road, where the ground is actually located.
Josh, or did you have an uninterrupted run?
Did you put chains on?
Dry,
okay.
But it was only it's a single... So it was just the way that I got... Great caption for the audio listeners. It was just the way that Google Maps sent me there, which was down... A rural kind of gravel road with like one sealed lane in the middle and then just lots of like loose gravel on the sides. And the locals would come at you head on like 80, 85 Ks an hour, would not slow down for you at all or move to the side at all. So I had to just veer into the gravel every time the car sped back in the other direction. I'm thinking, where on earth am I? But then you get to Leaks Road and it's all sealed and nice. Unfortunately, there was a car that was broken down near the entrance, like that had a flat tire. So there was an obstruction. I'm thinking, oh, God, this is going to be interesting for people coming in. I would say there's a bottleneck for the parking. It's like the number one issue with the ground because there's sort of one road in and one road out. So they need to get some people coming down the line with cash machines or whatever card machines rather to take tickets and send people through a bit quicker. I'm sure they'll smooth that process out. But once you actually get in, it's a cool vibe. Like you walk through the entranceway, there's all these food trucks that they've got set up. The Brazilian barbecue, which I posted on Twitter, is the best thing I have ever eaten at an A-League game by a mile. By a mile.
Well, what do we get after the $20 charred pizza at HBF Park in Perth? It's safe to say, Josh, Footy Scran did not pick up your Brazilian barbecue, but they
can't believe that.
They lost their rag at the charred Perth pizza.
I mean, they should have. I'm surprised Italy hasn't threatened to invade us for what we did to their nation at HBF Park.
So it rivals some of the best NPL fare that I've had, to be honest. It was pricey. It did send me back $22, but it was a massive thing of meat and salad, and it was just awesome. It was the
Elaine Bettis big salad.
Yeah, it was.
Josh, can I ask you what I love whenever Bill Simmons goes to an NBA game, he talks about like the different things that he can see in person. He becomes the body language doctor. He has these insights which pretty much everyone can just pick up by watching on TV.
So I'm pretty sure after the weekend, Bill Simmons thinks that violinists are having a moment.
It could be.
Was there anything that you picked up in person that you being there, seeing with your own eyes that we, can't pick up watching here in Barcelona on YouTube?
Well, firstly, and I think some people will know this, but the entire bench at an A-League game, and I've never been that close before, the entire bench takes their lead from the head coach in terms of the sort of tone that they seem to adopt, or at least that was the case, that the backroom staff are really reflecting the temperament of both their head coaches. Mile Stojovski he's so quiet. He's so, he doesn't really say anything. He'll yell at one player and he'll yell like one word, and it's like a code word. Like you can't, it's really hard to pick anything up from Mile. He keeps his cards very, very close to his chest. So obviously, like the players understand him. I saw a lot of nods out there. So obviously he's referring to things that they've done in training or whatever. But
I'll tell you right now, I nodded a lot of things here in Spain, which I don't understand what the person's saying, but I just want to pretend I do. So you just go, sí, no, entiendo, sí. Vale.
So bien. He's out there at the edge of his technical area, but he never says a word to the referee. He never appeals. He never raises his voice. And then John Aloisi is quite the opposite. He's out there kicking every ball. He's red in the face. He's talking, yelling, I would say, in the assistant referee's ear when the AR is in front of him. He's going, George, this is rubbish, George. It's the same every week, all this stuff. And he's really emotional. And Hayden Fox is, every time there's a set piece, Hayden Fox is up. Hayden Fox is up, yelling instructions to, especially when they're defending set pieces. So it was interesting to see the temperament on each bench. And of course that's affected by the way the game goes. And Western felt a lot of decisions were going against them. They were 2-0 down at halftime. But it is fascinating to see how that changes. Joe, do you want to come in?
Please finish. I have a question for you afterwards because I was so intrigued by your commentary on the game. But go on.
So, in terms of the spectacle in the stadium, the main grandstand is probably 900 seats. It doesn't take much in that stadium for that grandstand behind the benches to really they feel it on the pitch. It is loud. When that first 20 minutes of the second half where Western United scored 4 in 14 and there was, the Davila incident that was replayed on the big screen. So everybody saw it and it was booing and shouting. And then there's some big cheers for the goals. And it was just the right amount of feral. It was great. And I felt like it influenced the game. Maybe it's just me getting swept up. But I asked the players afterwards and the Western players, and they said, yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's probably the first time they literally felt like they had a home atmosphere in 3 years.
First time ever.
It is so profoundly different, both in terms of the picture and the sound, to what they were doing in Ballarat or Tasmania or even Amy Park with a couple of thousand people rattling around a 30,000-seater stadium.
I went to the game. It's great.
It doesn't take much. Yes, you can do the SMFC Mike Manuel crowd count. And believe me, this isn't forgiving them for not building the proper stadium, but at least it's progress because the sound mixing was so good to make that crowd sound the way it did. And the pictures were just far, far more encouraging. And the thing that impressed me the most, I don't know if you felt the same way, Josh, is that all of Western United's fans were wearing merch. If there's one thing that is indicative of at least having a rusted-on core of fans, it's that people were wearing scarves and shirts, if not both, and there was a lot of green and black in the ground.
The merch stands were doing an absolutely roaring trade before kickoff, and I actually overheard one mum with a couple of kids. It was a family, and she was saying it's so much cheaper here. This was $125 at Rebel, like the jersey. So they're selling them for cheaper in the ground than you can get them at retailers.
Yeah, but they get you on parking, mate. So just
yeah, they get you on. Yeah,
$20 to park Rebels.
So, but they were doing an absolute roaring trade in merchandise. The only thing that concerns me is like weather. So if it rains, there is zero cover on the temporary stands, obviously on the far side. And then even the main grandstand, I reckon you get wet in the first couple of rows if it was if there was a bit of wind. And also, they need to reprogram the sprinklers because we were ducking for cover on the sideline, and they were covering the cameras with tarpaulins because the sprinklers were nearly spraying them pre-game. So look, little things, little teething issues,
little tweaks, teething issues. That's right.
It was all so much fun. Like I've never felt. At a Western United game, really ever, I've never felt them have a home advantage. And I missed the grand final when they won. I had COVID that week, so maybe it was like that, but I wasn't there. But I've never been to a game and felt like the crowd can influence the game in Western United's favour, and I felt that on the weekend.
We're listening to a live Q&A with broadcasting legend Josh Sidelines Parish. Josh, on the broadcast, you described it as a boutique football venue, and you've already mentioned, I mean, the Brazilian barbecue. That's enough to get me over there. The cheap merchandise, great. But was there anything else that was really, that stood out to you that was kind of bougie and new and shiny? Like, was there a new toy there that kind of caught your eye?
Not so much the pitch, I would say. The pitch was great.
Well, you could tell on the coverage on the television. It looked
really nice. That maybe there was a bit of a bit of darkening in the middle, but but the rest of the pitch was absolutely pristine.
Okay, look, great day in Tarneit. What else should we talk about? Should we talk about we should quickly talk about? We'll talk about Western United. Daniel Pena came out this week, and MAFFS is officially on the let's naturalize a bunch of fun players and make them Socceroos. And he said it's my dream, to be a Socceroo. And we love Daniel Pena. We loved him when he was at Newcastle Jets. And we've talked about players that we want to see, naturalized, and Daniel Pena is definitely one of them. Subbed after 45 minutes after he said he wanted to play for the national team. So. A bit of a rough pitch to Graham Arnold. Joe, do you like?
I reckon Burundi and Tanzania are looking into Daniel Pena this week as well. I reckon.
Well, seriously, was Pena the first one? I think it was maybe episode 2 of this show. We were talking about naturalization, making all fun footballers Socceroos. Pena, was he the first one? I think he might have been the first one that came.
I reckon he was one of our first names we mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
he's been listening to the pod. Sure. He's been listening intently.
We're big in Brazil.
It also is just fun that a player is who is this exciting is coming out and saying, "It's my dream to play for the Socceroos. I have a dream to play for them." Like that's awesome to hear.
I just want to say how magnanimous Daniel Pena has been on the weekend, because he thought, look, it's not my time. It's not about me. It's about stepping aside and letting the redhead Italian commentating the game call a young redhead Italian scoring the winner.
Yeah, I mean, he's a hero. He's a hero. We got to say that. Look, let's move.
Hey, sorry. There's one more thing before we move away from Tarneit. I just
Gioni was playing in the game.
One more thing, Teo, in commentary after the penalty, you said that Germain was the first player to score an A-League men's goal at the regional football facility in Tarneit. And the crowd was just going, "You will never sing that." That was one of the finest pieces.
I mean, Village man, he's played in a Europa League final.
Means nothing.
Scored goals for Marseille at the Velodrome. But him and Libby Copus Brown are going to be the first ever goal scorers at not the Ironbark. So there you go.
John asked, could MAFFS push Pena's citizenship papers to the top? Any contacts? I don't know, but maybe if we can get him to do like a side gig as an au pair for one of the politicians in Canberra. Usually that's the way to get a quick thing to citizenship. Joseph Ciccone says, I've heard Harley Reid has Socceroos ambitions after his contract ends at the Eagles. Yeah, look, breaking news there from Joseph. We love to get a scoop. So probably got to be on the back page of the West Australian tomorrow. Harley Reid Reid, I can be the next Viduka. Joe, what do you think? You've seen a bit of Reedy play. You think he's got the temperament, the emotional intelligence?
Oh man, he's you know what he does have is he's got a mean stiff arm, Teo, doesn't he? He broke 7 tackles on the weekend.
Yeah, I actually am at a bit of a loss.
Thank God you said arm.
Harley Reid reminds me of high school, where on like house sport carnival days, everyone who actually played footy instead played soccer competitively for the one time of the year and monstered the guys that actually played soccer. That is what Harley Reid reminds me of.
How much are you getting paid?
I honestly don't know what position he would play on an actual football pitch. I think marauding wingback. I think.
See, I feel centre back. I know he's not the tallest, but I feel like he's. Oh, here we go. Harley Reid's sandwich secret. I love Subway and I love the Subway Socceroos. Thank you, Joseph, for coming through in the comments. What do you reckon his order would be?
If Subway, sorry, Ben Smith, if Subway pays enough, that will be the back page of the West Australian on any given day.
Speaking of converting AFL players to footballers, who's the Sydney player who did this celebration?
Errol Goulden, who famously. Jared Waitley, when he was interviewing Errol Goulden on AFL 360, asked this long, elaborate question if his parents had named him after Errol Flynn. And Errol goes, "No, mate, I'm Turkish."
Hey, look, interviews are tough with different cultures, especially when people come from Guam or all over the place. Look, let's talk about some of the other games that happened this weekend. Western Sydney 1, Brisbane 2. I don't know how much you guys saw of this, but it was an interesting game because first you kind of thought, oh, Western Sydney. They've hit a bit of form. They're going to do it, but they struggled quite a bit, and huge result for Brisbane, including, and this is, you love this in the A-League, a last-minute penalty save. Joe, the penalty save meant that Brisbane Roar 1-2-1 keeps their faint hopes alive of making finals football. Is it a statue-esque penalty save? Is it statue-worthy building? This is the big question.
Hey, Speaking of the statue, I saw Alex Paulson got Player of the Month for the A-League today. Not a statue, but it's something. It's a trophy to take home. Not statue worthy. I mean, it could be statue worthy. I mean, it depends where it takes them. It was a huge penalty. I think Western Sydney kind of shot themselves in the foot. Yeah, I mean, how many chances did they have to score? Some real quality chances that they missed. I mean, the Milanovic one was probably the pick of the bunch. But yeah, the penalty save. It was the second penalty year, and yeah, it could prove influential.
You know what? So we talked previously about nicknames on this show. We had the Great Barrier Chief. Waddingham actually didn't have a great game. Kiwi Messi came on, but Henry Hoare scored the winner for Brisbane. And I did a bit of research. He's from Nambour in Queensland. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But the Nambour Hoare, what do you reckon?
I don't mind it. Triple H.
Can I just say? Oh, sorry, Josh. The Great Barrier Chief. We did discuss about how his game time was starting to resemble the actual coral erosion in the real barrier. What a week for Greta Thunberg. I don't know if any of you have seen the arrest video.
How old is she now?
Jesus, Stoll.
Well, no, because I mean, I don't know. It's just like maybe she's like 25. I can't remember. I don't follow.
Anyway, Josh, you had a point on the actual football.
All I was going to say is, are the Brisbane Roar fans singing "Super Freak" by Rick James for Macklin Freak?
Yeah. Good.
That's good.
Brisbane Roar
That's
fans
good.
work that into
it's so obvious. I'm not completely sure that they're not already singing it. But if someone would tell me, please.
Yeah. Oscar says Macklin Freak for Brisbane Lions. See, you guys say you don't want AFL chat, and then you guys put in the comments. That's all I'm saying. That's all.
What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Rough result for Western Sydney.
I think that's a paraphrasing, Joe. It's what else we can do.
Should we talk about the Mariners 2, Wellington Phoenix 1, a top of the table clash, and our boy Angel Torres? Remember the start of the season? There was quite a lot of Mariners fans saying how Angel Torres, worst signing we ever had. What a flop. Who is this guy? Blah, blah. He got that early red card. But we stayed backing him. And has he not been the signing of the season, Teo?
I mean, he's potentially going to single-handedly win this team. I mean, okay, not single-handedly, but he's going to be the main source of goals if they're going to win both the Premier's Play and the Grand Final. And this was, I think, the Mariners had not played well in their last 2 games. They were outplayed by Sydney FC. Perhaps, fortunate that Melbourne City is having the year from hell and coughed up a stoppage time goal in the midweek game. But they showed a lot of character in this one. And Angel Torres, his agent has come out publicly and said that he has solicitations from, 11 different countries. But the tweet is structured in a way where the flag of the previous country he's named is next to the next country. So it's like England, but instead of a red cross, it's a red dot on a white flag because it was Japan, Japanese flag, England. So the formatting, I don't know. Anyway, I was surprised that there's at least one Australian team that hasn't thrown their hat in the ring to sign him as a marquee, but that must say that he's getting proper money if there isn't even, Melbourne City or Melbourne Victory showing an interest in him.
Jess says Torres to leave at the end of the season, according to reports. I'd just say about that, it's not so much reports as it is his agent saying that he has 1 million offers. And it was funny that he did use the flag emojis just to really does that increase your player's value if you just in case you wanted to bid?
Maybe he's been studying Fabrizio Romano because, again, no one has... I'm going to throw this out there publicly because maybe someone will know. No one has been able to clarify whether Fabrizio Romano says in every tweet, he says the same thing 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
No one has clarified whether that is just a lost in translation thing because... his natural language is Italian and English is a language that he's learned, or whether it is some sort of monkey brain algorithm tickling psychology thing. And I'm thinking here, I tweet really smart stuff on my Twitter and get, 1 like. And here's Romano just saying the same thing 3 times. Angel Torres will leave Central Coast Mariners at the end of the season. Torres will no longer play in Australia. Torres is looking for a new club. Same thing 3 times. And is that going to fly? Has he actually revealed how the algorithm works? If anyone actually knows if Romano has said whether he does that on purpose or whether it is purely a not native language thing, please let us know.
Yes. And if you're looking to force a move, Romano is the one to speak to because whenever players is suddenly he gets a lot of exclusive interviews with them and has a lot of exclusive information.
Well, he gets a lot of intel on Ange. He was a big supporter of Ange leaving Celtic to go to Spurs as well.
Interesting. Ange, what have you been paying him in the DMs? Jess says Turkish hair transfer. I don't know, Jess, are you referring to Angel Torres? Because he went blonde this week, which I did like.
I love that.
Yeah, go on, Joe. Thoughts on
that? No. Not much more that I really like. I think it's time. I mean, we're entering it's almost the finals. He mixed it up. He looked completely different. At first, I was like, "Who is this guy?"
You know what? It's finals mentality. It's like
exactly.
Right,
that's what it is.
This is the business end of the season. I'm going to go, and you know what? It's actually, and I've had this theory for a long time. If you want to get, stand out on a football pitch, if you want to be noticed, if you're looking to get offers from 14 different countries and 13 different flags, get your hair a bit weird. We always knew where David Luiz was on a pitch. We always knew where Marouane Fellaini was on a pitch. Your hair's a bit different. You stand out. And I think that's what Angel Torres is doing. I mean, he's a great footballer. We would notice him anyway, but the hair, just that extra bit to get those extra clubs involved, to get that extra yen in the pocket.
Extra emoji
and for
on the
follically
transfer.
challenged among us, go get a sponsorship from Turkish Hairlines.
Yeah. Oh, Josh, that's actually good. I don't love too many puns, but that is some quality stuff.
Yeah, would it be remiss of us? I mean, I know it was Wellington potentially breaking clear at the top of the league, but is this now where they start their slide to ninth? Is it mathematically? I saw Phil Rollo tweeted that the Phoenix can't finish lower than 3rd. But we also know that he has perhaps been the number one critic of us saying the Phoenix would finish 9th. and again, fake news may have intervened. Josh, I think you had some other takeaways on the actual takeaways on the Phoenix, though, out of the game, which they did lose, to be fair. So,
I just wanted to bring up the Andy Howe stat about Ben Old scoring in this game. Ben Old scores against the oldest goalkeeper to concede a goal so far this season, Danny Vukovic. And Jamie Young conceded the goal scored by the season's youngest scorer so far, Riley Brownlee, back in December. Just incredible. The nominative determinism on multiple levels.
You know, this thing, and Andy Howe's just not just like a random stats guy. It's just like this guy scored this many goals, and that's where the stats guys. He is the Angel Torres of stats. He brings the fun in stats. He stands out every season. All right, love that. You know, if everyone's
blonde
come
hair,
on the show, yeah, you know what? That's what. Yeah, Andy Howe needs to go blonde hair for the finals to really just go that extra mile. That's what I'd love to say. We need to get him on the show actually, and just have him just randomly insert stats into the broadcast. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. Stats about us, stats about where the Seven Nation Army riff was actually created. Could be amazing.
Fabrizio Romano said that the Seven Nation Army riff was written at the Corner Hotel. That hotel in Melbourne was the original location of where the riff was created.
Australia.
Do we have a third one? This isn't going to back. I can't think of a third way to say it.
Australia, the inception of the riff. John asked a really good question. Should people looking for a new job go down the agent's path? I have 1 billion offers on LinkedIn. Yep, and that's a great idea. Go on. If you're looking for a job, don't have that open to work thing that you get on your LinkedIn profile. That's no good. That looks desperate. What you need is a post saying, I have offers from Japan, emoji, Korea, emoji, Fabrizio Romano, another emoji.
But it's funny you mentioned that though, Stoll, because just last week, Angel Torres did put on his LinkedIn that he gets up at 4 a.m. and has an ice cold shower to start the day every single day.
Actually?
No, it's a LinkedIn. It's a LinkedIn trope. It's a LinkedIn.
You don't know. The LinkedIn brain. Everyone talks about Facebook brain and internet brain. The LinkedIn brain is one of the worst affected things. John also makes
the other recent Andy Howe stat that I really liked, which was when the Socceroos were playing, and people were asking whether Josh Nisbet was the shortest Socceroo ever. And apparently there was a guy in 1951 called Kevin Lake who was only 151 centimeters tall. But I'm just wondering, has that been adjusted for inflation? Because we know people used to be shorter back in the day. We get slowly getting taller as a species.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just the woke mind, isn't it? You know, everyone just has to get taller and bigger and healthier. And man, this wokeness. What happened to when we were a proud clan of 1.50 meter garden gnomes? Lewis makes a really good point. Keep changing the tiebreakers until the Knicks are ninth. Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Plausible.
John also says Docker, one of the most underrated fullbacks this season. He should have some good offers too. John, don't give him any ideas. All right, he's gonna get on LinkedIn. He's gonna say he's got 100 offers, and then we'll lose. I mean, this is the other thing with the Mariners. Their signings have been amazing, like in the last few years, and where that club was, and it is cool. We talk about like the top of the table clash. I think it is really cool that these two clubs, Wellington and Mariners, I don't know, for a good 5 or 6 years, it was basically let's get rid of Wellington. You know, don't worry about the Knicks; they suck. The Mariners, the first team to be relegated, and now these two teams have turned it around and are challenging for the top of the table. Look, there's hope for Perth Glory. There's hope for Newcastle Jets. And one of the things that the Mariners have done really well is their international signings have been really incredible. And every time they've lost players, they seem to have replaced them with really good ones. You just wonder how long can that last? You know, if they lose Torres again, let's not forget they lost Tulio. If they lose Docker, at a certain point, that's going to run out. You would think.
It has, but it very much has with their NPL team in the men's. And to be fair, it's hard to stay in the top flight. MacArthur's affiliate got relegated last season, and the Mariners look on course for relegation this season. But again, if that's the product of so many of your youth team players ending up as senior A League players, it's not a bad thing. It just peaks and troughs. You just got to ride it.
Yeah, I mean,
to be honest, I don't think it took much imagination for the Mariners to go for someone named Docker. I mean, I think Freo will be making a big offer in the offseason.
Can you imagine? Look out, West Coast.
Are there any other seafaring footballers that we could link with the Central Coast Mariners?
Oh, geez, putting us on the spot here. Is there a sailor? Ollie Sailor? Is that someone?
Ollie Sail, yeah.
Sail, yeah.
Back
Sail.
to Perth.
That was pretty good. Is there a boat, a barker?
Is David Seaman still available?
Oh, good shout. Have you ever heard that guy talk? Thick Yorkshire accent. Look, really good result for the Mariners. And the big question is, guys, do you think now that they will go on to win the title? Who thinks they'll win? Who thinks Wellington will win? I think the Mariners are going to go on to do it. I think Wellington just losing a little bit of steam.
Yeah, I think they'll do it. I think I came on one of the early episodes in my extra tight Mariners long sleeve kit, proudly stating that they're going to win. And luckily, they've been pretty good throughout the year. But a few weeks ago, we were saying that they are the most, they're the hardest team to beat in the league. And at that stage, Victory hadn't lost a game. So it just goes to show how much of a quality team they are. And I think they did. I mean, they slipped up here, but I think they have enough to do it.
We're just ahead of the curve.
The Mariners, look at their next away trip, though. The Mariners have to go to Tarneet and get something. That's what Wellington should be saying this week. We're still fighting for this title.
Yeah, but hold on. After they have to go to, the mighty Tarneet and deal with all the parking problems, they, in the AFC Cup, they're in the AFC semi-final, final stage. I can't remember what the AFC means. They've got to go to Kyrgyzstan. I mean, has anyone ever in history gone Gosford, Tarneet, Kyrgyzstan?
The parking in Kyrgyzstan is a bit iffy.
Yeah, but the Brazilian barbecue is sensational.
Yeah, beautiful.
It does present the greatest troll opportunity of all time if they say that the logistics of getting to Tarneet were more tricky than Bishkek.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's interesting because there was also talk that it's going to be difficult for the Mariners to compete because they've got to play in this midweek football and Asia and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's helped them. I think the playing of regular games. I think the A League isn't. Yeah, it's a demanding league because it's played in summer, but I don't think it's it's not a 48 game season. It's a shorter season. So I think if you have some midweek games, you have a bit of a cup run, I think it can help. So look, I've loved the Mariners this season. And I think Mark Jackson's done really well in what is his first season. And also I think is the real brains behind the operation, or at least hope is the brains behind the operation. Don't forget that they've got Bielsa's ex-translator just on the sideline. And every time they see it cuts, Josh, if you ever do sideline on a Mariners game, don't say you want to talk to Mark Jackson. Don't say you want to talk to Angel Torres. Say you want to talk to Bielsa's translator. Like, come on, he'd have the best stories. He'd be the most interesting thing. Or what would be incredible is if he did a bit of a power move and got someone to be his translator. So he spoke through, even though he speaks English, but it'd be a power move. What do you reckon, Teo? Do you think that's going to work for the broadcast?
Well, there's a fake Tom Brown account absolutely running wild at the moment on Twitter. And as we know, famously, we had the Tom Brown translator, and his only language was allegedly English. So I think there's definitely some legs on this, Stoll.
All right, let's talk about the Melbourne Derby. Guys, the thing I loved about this was I hate the don't celebrate against your former team. I love when you stir up the crowd. And Bruno Fornaroli celebrated against his former team, Melbourne City. There wasn't even a fake, let me put my hands up, sorry guys. Sprinted to the fans. Loved every minute of it. Joe, are you for or against the celebrating against your own team?
Absolutely for. I don't think anyone is against. Who's against? Josh, Teo, are you against this? No one, no MAFFS person could be against this. And I think if anyone was going to kind of
the context though, because they treated him poorly on the way out, the same way that I think quite a few Arsenal fans took umbrage to Trossard getting booed by Brighton fans at the weekend. It's like, hey, we paid you well over market value in a January transfer window for a guy who gave you great service, and you're booing him. And whereas Fornaroli was frozen out at Melbourne City, and I think more than entitled to just remind them what they were missing.
Same with Trossard. He was frozen out at Brighton as well. It's the same thing. And I think if anyone, sorry, Josh, I think if anyone was going to go for the celebrate against your old team, maybe not Adebayor style, but Fornaroli, I mean, you can put your money on that. He was loving every minute of it.
I'm not sure if this is true, but I did read on Twitter someone had put a chant up, and I'm not sure if they were chanting it or not. I hope they were. But in the South End, Bruno's got skin folds. Warren Joyce is terrified, which would have been one of the great chants if that got up.
That is. Yeah. You know what? Well, Popper famously does the skin folds test as well, and is kind of obsessed with it. So, I mean, I love a fat player. I don't like, the fat ones are the best. What are you doing, Maradona? Like, come on, like,
According to the
Ronaldinho?
Australian workplace, no, I'm not going to go talk about the Australian workplace tribunal.
Make
on
Australian
that.
football fat societies.
Too late. Too late.
I think we've got our next pinch test on Sunday, so I mean we got to get into that.
Look, Melbourne City, they are 4 points off sixth. Western Sydney in sixth. Pretty, I'd say, disappointing for them. Obviously, they were in the final last year. The richest team in the country. Really, Tolgay Arslan has really only been their kind of shining light. Do any of you think that they will make the sixth, Teo?
I know what they need to do. They need to move permanently to Cranbourne and call it Red Gum Stadium. And that is because, I mean, they were winning everything, trophies, winning almost all their games, and they were barely cracking sort of 5,500, 6,000 fans at Amy Park. It is time to take the plunge to the southeast. I know they wanted to maintain a whole of city presence, but regardless of who they bring in as manager or whether they bring Aurelio Vidmar back, regardless of which players they release and whether sort of this, deluge of Socceroos, maybe they move on from a few or many of them, it's time to carve out a greater sense of identity and purpose for the club, because that contrast to Western United is only going to be exacerbated with Western playing all their games in Tarneit next season. So time to commit to Cranbourne, find a different local piece of flora to name your stadium after, and go about carving out an identity.
Who would be on the sponsorship on the scoreboard? We had the Four Cliffs, maybe Ocean Spray for the cranberry juice could sponsor them down there.
I'm thinking, well, I mean, potentially there's a team in the Mornington Peninsula in the Pean Football League. They can steal the stadium name off and just double up. So, but I must admit, not my side of town, Joe. More of a, east and north and west guy, but definitely not the Peninsula.
Yeah, more of a Montalbot guy.
No, probably
relax, Victorians. No one outside Victoria understands what any of this means. Okay, just calm down.
As I used to say, the peninsula started at Mulgrave, Joe. Pretty much anywhere south or east of Mulgrave, I considered the Mornington Peninsula. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good stuff for the Victorians there.
Would you rather we talk about footy stuff? Would you go to talking about footy?
No,
what do you think about Pakenham?
All right. You guys have.
What I was going to say is let's not forget that the man of the match in Tarneit on the weekend was let go by Melbourne
Victorian
City.
Place. Oh, yeah.
Matt Grimaldi was at Melbourne City's youth academy, so he's not the only one. They've let a lot of talent slip through their fingers because the first team was too good to blood any of these young players, and now they're in a situation where they could actually do with a few of them. So.
Hey, speaking of the derby, Melbourne Victory in third position now, only 5 points off top. It's been a weird year for them. You talked, Teo, about how a lot of Victory fans were, completely over Tony Popovich, and they kind of wanted him gone. I mean, it hasn't. There's been a lot of kind of. Victory hasn't exactly been the most MAFFSy team this season, and we kind of haven't talked about them too much as a result. But, third, 5 points off the top, they had that long undefeated streak. Josh, do you think, Popovich has deserved a kind of another year, another season?
Well, I mean, the fans had completely jumped off for a while there. It's only because we haven't really had an outstanding team this season. We've got the league is really close, but there's not one team setting the benchmark.
Yeah,
Mariners and Wellington are as close as we've got. But I think in other years in this league, Mariners and Wellington would be, third or fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's maybe with Sydney having a down year, or at least a down start to the year, and they've come back a lot since Tally took over, of course, but it still hasn't been smooth sailing for them, and obviously Melbourne City's massive squad turnover and then resulting fall off, and getting rid of the manager and everything. I think that's kind of left a hole at the top of the table, and I think Victory looked good by comparison. or acceptable by comparison. I think in
They've
another year,
they've got to listen to their fans and move on. I mean, it's funny today. Victory fans were tweeting out Nani's game time at Antalyaspor or Demirspor or wherever he is in Turkey, and it's like 880 minutes, 27 appearances, 4 goals, and it's like wow. So in addition to doing his knee, like Victory were not even squeezing the last little droplets of juice out of Nani. Did I say Nani before? Or did I say someone else?
No,
I said Nani. Okay. Hello, Mr. Sheffield. So I think that the fans are done. The fans are done with Popper, and Victory would be foolhardy, regardless of if they win the grand final or make the grand final or not, to buy in, and then all of a sudden in round 3 next year, oh wait a minute, why aren't our crowds having a massive boost off the back of being the defending champions?
Sorry, it says City Scoreboard sponsored by Debana. Yeah, great shout. I thought Nani retired. That genuinely, that's just broken my brain that Nani is still playing. Just incredible stuff. Look, good news for Victory. Azani looked good again. I really like Azani. I really, really like him. I hope he goes on a nice run of form. That'd be good to see. But yeah, Victory, I think, Josh, on your point, I just think it's a really even competition this year. Like, if there was going to be a relegation battle, we would have an amazing one this year because Glory, 22 points, Western United, 22 points, Newcastle Jets, 24 points, and even Adelaide, 28 points. Not exactly out of that kind of wooden spoon race. But I don't think it's easy to predict games this year. And if you look at the live comments on any of the YouTube matches that are shown, it's just hundreds of thousands of people complaining about their bets not getting up. So it does seem, but I think it has been a fun season for that reason. It's not, it wasn't fun when City was steamrolling the competition or Sydney FC was steamrolling the competition. It is good that the games are so even this year, and maybe it's more even because teams lack consistency, or teams outside of kind of the Mariners and Wellington can't put together a string of good performances. But I think also there hasn't been anyone really stinking up the league. And even we saw this weekend with, Newcastle Jets and all the issues with ownership and getting a 3-1 win over Sydney. Sydney, another red card. Just on the red card, I'm sure you guys saw it. Robert Mack flicked his arm out. Where do you stand on this whole who should be ashamed, who should be embarrassed? Is it a red card or not? Joe, I'll go with you.
No, I don't think it's a red card. Stoll, imagine you're at one of your family barbecues and Papu's mad at you. He's flicking the arm back to say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And it just grazes your cheek. Are you going down in that situation?
It depends. If it gets me out of having to clean up later, yeah, probably I am. Probably I would because you're
getting the wooden spoon. No, I don't think so. There was more contact at WrestleMania this morning. I don't think that's a red card. What do you guys think? I feel like it's a split. It splits everyone.
I think the issue is that if it had gone to VAR and not been a red, the Sydney conspiracy would have just been running wild, like totally out of control. It actually would have been, WrestleMania this morning would have paled by comparison to, and if you think the tectonic plates are a conspiracy, oh boy. So I think the MRP came back and has reviewed it down to just 1 game suspended. Sydney FC were trying to get it thrown out altogether for wrong application of the law, but he does make grazing contact. And I guess Philip Kankar's, sanction is that he now will be subject to the boo boys whenever he plays Sydney in the future. And also, has people saying X, Y, Z about, staging or soft or whatever. So he doesn't get a formal sanction, but he very much gets a socially imposed informal sanction, which you could argue is, potentially worse and longer lasting than getting a formal one of his own.
Yeah. Wizard of Woy says Mac has been suspended for, quote, serious unsporting conduct, which apparently does not exist in the laws on IFAB website, I'm guessing. I don't know, maybe. It's a strange one. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I know Sydney FC have appealed it. I do always think with these things, though, it's like, don't give them an opportunity to send you off. Don't give them an opportunity. Like, why are you flicking your kind of arm out at them? Look, it goes down like a sack of potatoes, but it's just like, what are you doing, Robert Mack? And, I don't know. I feel like Sydney FC, they're also, because of this whole high press thing, if you're down to 10 men, you just cannot press and the team falls apart. And they've had quite a few red cards. Joe?
Well, I think earlier in that little tussle, like Mac puts his head up again. There's a little headbutt situation. So if it depends. It's really when you go down. That's what the deciding factor here. I don't know. I reckon get the gloves off, let the boys play.
It should be like ice hockey, just allow
I think so.
Fight.
Yeah. Give him 5 minutes in the middle. Let him sort it out.
Can I just rewind a little bit history here? Because we used to have retrospective bans for diving in the A-League. It was in 2009, 2010 range. And the A-League brought in tough new measures in July 2009 for saying that if a player is sent off as a result of an opponent's simulation, he will have his red card rescinded, but also that player who's simulated can be banned for 2 weeks. This is the then A-League boss Archie Fraser saying the level of simulation last season was clearly unacceptable and it's something we need to address. No one wants to put up with it, not ourselves and certainly not the fans. Australians want their football tough, but most of all they want it fair. Former Sydney FC coach John Cosmina
tough to watch sometimes.
Isn't quite as convinced, but applauds the FFA initiative. I think this will influence player behaviour, but I'm not so sure it will change it. I'm not sure what he means there, but we've been having this conversation for a long time. I'm in favour of retrospective bans for diving. I think that's a good thing. I think it damages the sport's reputation here more than in other countries because of our kind of macho sporting culture, and I just don't think it's a good look for the game. But I think it should have been overturned on VAR, and I think Robert Mack should have stayed on because it's nothing brush at the face, and it's just not a good look.
Can I just say, Josh, that press release there, I think that's a really fan servicey way of saying you're doing something about something to win over the fans' hearts and minds. But in terms of what the memo that went to the operations team, there was no memo. I reckon
Can I rebut, Teo, from August 2010? Central Coast Patricio Perez and Perth Glory's Michael Baird were banned for a week apiece after they were deemed to have simulated to win penalties.
And since 2010, Josh?
Well, it was clearly a
one-season wonder
kind of initiative.
It had too many offers from overseas. It left. Matt Coleman, king of the Qatari cash, he says Central's marriage and star Patricio Perez, the only player to ever cop the ban. And Alex also says the same thing. Alex makes a good point. For the Sydney conspiracy theorists, Sydney's 5 red cards are the most in National League history, not just A-League history, National League history. All of them have been in the first half. I do have this theory that Sydney FC get more red cards because they are trying to do this high press. And if you high press all the time, you just you're getting into a lot of kind of last ditch tackles or, this thing where you're trying to win the ball, but you end up stepping on the opponent's foot or something. So I do think that is a kind of one of the downsides of their system. So it'd be interesting to see.
Max Burgess got a red card this season. Who else from Sydney's been?
Did Max Burgess get a red card this season? He got subbed off when someone else got a red card this season. I remember that. That was annoying. When
Gerwood Reich got a red card.
Red cards,
Patrick Wood. Not Max Burgess. It was Patrick Wood got a red card as well.
That was harsh.
Andrew Redmayne has also been sent off, and Gerwood Reich has 2.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, none of them for retrospective diving. That's the real issue. But good win for the Jets. Jack Toohill said via Twitter, does Stanton ball at a club that's going... Does Stanton ball at a club that's going, I think he's trying to say exist, count as an extra awkward type of fun, asking for a friend? Yeah, the Jets, I mean... Every time it feels like their existence is on the line, they seem to pull out like a bit of a moment, a bit of a result, a bit of something to say. I quite like it. I wish they'd find an owner, but we should find a good owner, I should say. because we've had a lot of shit ones. But yeah, interesting time for the Jets. Hopefully they're around next season. Should we move on to the last game of the round, which was Perth Glory 2, Adelaide United 4. Now, some people are calling this the MAFFS derby because the two teams are so fun. I don't know if Adelaide are so fun as much as Irankunda is so fun. And he kind of showed it again this weekend. In a week where he was snubbed. He's been snubbed for Socceroos selections. He's been snubbed for Ollie Ruhs selections. There was this narrative kind of out there that Vidmar and Arnold are in agreement that he is not emotionally ready for these international football. There was also something out there that, he wants to get over to Bayern and, be training with them and wants to be integrated within their team, and international football could take away from that. I don't know how much I'm buying it. I wonder if last week when we, made fun of his parking, did that have an impact? And that was the kind of straw that broke the camel's back. But Josh, this was a bit of an odd one. What did you think about the Irankunda snub?
Well, I can understand not calling him up for senior international football yet, but this is the Ollie Ruhs. This is under 23s, and he's already one of the best players in the league. And he's just scored a hat-trick again. When this selection was made, he just scored a hat-trick against Western United, and he was great again against Perth, heavily involved in 3 of the 4 goals, I believe. Look, I don't get it at all, because yes, it's one thing to protect him and say, it's all too much too soon, and we've got to be mindful of, his development and all sorts. We've also got to get to the Olympics. And it's going to be really hard to get to the Olympics without one of your best players there. So I think it's a silly, I think it's a really silly decision, and it's self-sabotage for the Ollie Ruhs. Because, Teo, I think you're making the point that the Olympics are a great source of government funding. Governments care about this.
They care disproportionately about it. So my initial reaction was, for all the PR about diversity and inclusion, as soon as someone comes along that doesn't adhere to what the coaches expect personality-wise, are they able to be, accommodating of diversity or not? Like, how high or low does the line need to be drawn on someone's personality and background and behaviors before it actually becomes the lack of skill of the staff as opposed to the issue for the person? Now, I was having this conversation with an ex-player who shall remain nameless, and they said to me that one of their experiences on tour with an international team was ruined by someone who personality-wise should never have been there and was just a squeaky wheel and a thorn in everyone's side the entire time they were away. And I thought, it's fascinating. You're never going to say that on air, but it's fascinating to hear that player's perspective from someone who's lived it. And we don't know what happened with the under-17s. That is the one international tour he went away on to Thailand. But I can't help but think that off the back of the 2022 World Cup, perhaps we are right, and our ways are the right ways has become very ingrained at the FFA. We know that Graham Arnold is starting to take a few more leaves out of Tony Gustafsson's book off the back of the Women's World Cup, because now he complains about lack of training sessions and time with his international teams in every international window. It's only the job, but him and Gustafsson now seemingly aligned on that, which suggests to me that the FA has a blind spot in the managers they hire that don't actually understand the job they've signed up for. But not to make too serious a point of it, I can understand the players' perspective and the fact that a lot of the mainstream media has been on Team Australia and more or less supported Tony Vidmar's decision, says to me that they may have been backgrounded on more than what's been filtered through to the general public.
Yeah, look, potentially.
But he's our most necessary and important player, and we should have picked him. Like, honestly, we should.
Yeah, yeah, and also
find a way to accommodate Brendan Favola in the Socceroos, for goodness' sake.
I do want. Speaking of emotionally mature, I do wonder whether what does it say that you can't create? And isn't it your responsibility to create an environment for this player to emotionally mature? Wouldn't this experience help with that process? Isn't
I guess maybe they could argue they're so resource poor that the Socceroos probably have fewer staff than a NAB League team in the AFL. To be fair, where you have you have a 44-man roster in the under-18 NAB League and more staff than players. Are we sure the Socceroos have that many support staff? Never mind the Ruhs. So it could literally be we can get to a certain level of accommodating difference with a certain number of staff and resources. But if you want to expand the franchise, then maybe the cost is implausible.
Jess asks, has he decided to pick another country? He's eligible for other countries, including Burundi and Tanzania. Joe, outside of like extreme kind of patriotism he might have to one of these countries, just football-wise, you wouldn't pick these teams that have never qualified for a World Cup over the Socceroos? Surely not.
No, you wouldn't think so. And so you're talking about resources. I know that it's been spoken about, like, why did Connor Cody and Eric Dyer, why have they gone to World Cups when they're clearly not going to play? Well, it was to get these young players involved and kind of keep them grounded and merge them into the side. And I think that's the kind of environment you want there. And of course, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but from a footballing perspective, he's a difference maker. He's attracted European attention. And you just saw on the weekend, these 2 assists, you saw his composure. He's not just, goals and tricks and speed. He's composed and can set up plays. He can make an actual difference to either the soccer or the Ruhs. So I don't really get the argument for it. And I think you'd want to be playing. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, Joseph makes a really good point. I tell you what would be bad for Team Around not qualifying for the Olympics. Yeah, honestly, it's a strange one. And look, without, like you say, Teo, without the proper information coming to light, it's hard for... it seems hard to justify it because he is so talented and he's clearly, hopefully, the future of the national team. So yeah, it was a weird one for me, but maybe there is something more behind the scenes. But I would like to have seen him be selected. Look, we've gone a bit long. We've had a lot of fun. We had a great Q&A with the broadcasting legend. That is
record
Josh
audience, might I say.
Parish.
We've smashed our numbers.
18 million listens already. Huge. Obviously, people are tuning in because we played a little bit of the Seven Nation Army, and then probably a bunch of the White Stripes fans have tuned in to hear about the origins of that riff.
The Corner Hotel fans,
the Corner Hotel, make the pilgrimage. People go to like Liverpool to see like the Beatles where they started and all that stuff. Imagine people start going to the Corner Hotel to hear the riff.
Respect from a Terminus fan.
Look, we're gonna leave it there.
Can I give us a little bit? Can we finish on a little bit of Seven Nation Army?
Oh, sure. Should we go out on that? Any last words? All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you click the notification bell on YouTube, it means you get notified when we go live in case we're a few minutes late or we do it the next day. So that's always helpful. And yeah, share with your friends, put it everywhere. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. But taking us out, a riff that started at the Corner Hotel in Melbourne. Little known fact.
You'd ask for something like this. A team coming back from 2-0 down, scoring 4 goals in the first 20 minutes of the second half.
Okay.
If you were looking to make